Hey, how's it going? Today I'm doing a fuel tank on a 95 T100. This is a 3.4 with a full drive auto. I had this truck a long time. This is my old truck and I gave it to my friend. And it's been a great truck. It's got like 382,000 miles on it. And a rock got in between the skid plate on the gas tank and the plastic skid plate underneath it, and it rubbed a hole. So it's leaking some fuel. The first thing you want to do is disconnect it. Battery terminal, I pulled it off last night. Actually, I kind of got set up. I was gonna do it last night, but I had some plans changed, so I kind of just got set up last night, and so now I'm just getting started. You can buy brand new fuel tanks for these trucks still, but I ended up getting a used one. A brand new tank's like $300 or $400, but you can typically find used ones for like $100. I bought this stuff and I kind of sprayed it. The back underside of it and top side of it, just letting it dry right now, hoping to kind of help it, protect it a little bit since it is a used tank. And then I'm not going to put the plastic skid plate back on. And then the inside of this was actually pretty nasty, but I spent a lot of time last night kind of cleaning it with different solvents and degreasers and things like that. So the rest of it should kind of clean out with just some normal gasoline. So should be good. The first thing you want to do, for sure, disconnect the negative battery and get your fuel tank, whether it's a used one or a new one. And you want to make sure it's the right one. There's different styles between two-wheel drives and full drives and stuff like that. So make sure you have the right one before you pull yours out. I did that before I pulled the whole tank out and realized the one I had was out of a Toyota pickup or some shit and it didn't work. The first thing I typically do is I take these 3 10mm bolts out and you kind of just push it through and kind of let it hang. And I like to use one of these. The method I like to use to pull the tank involves you running the tank till it's like below a quarter tank of fuel in there, and you kind of just set it on your legs and kind of teeter totter it out. So I like to have one of these with me. You can do it on cardboard or whatever and kind of slide it out, but whatever way it works. All you're really gonna need is some basic hand tools. I have a ratchet with an extension, 14, 10s, things like that. And pretty much the way I like to do it is I'll get back here so you guys can see. Pretty much the fuel tank's held up with 2 straps. I disconnected this one already. It's just a 14mm on the frame. I like to kind of fold them over the drive line like that so it's not in your way when you're trying to pull the tank. But I always pull the rear one first and then kind of let it drop. Yeah, it's just a 14 right there and another 14 right here. I like to loosen this one about halfway out. The bolt, get out of my way, dude. The bolt's about 1.5 inches long, so once you get the rear one out, you want to drop. Fuck me, bro. So once you get the rear bolt out, you want to lower the first one till it's about 1.5 inches out. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Lower this one about halfway out. So once you get this one about halfway out, this is where the fun stuff goes. There's a few different ways you can do this. You can kind of lower the tank in front of it first and kind of attempt disconnecting this main fuel line right here. But I found that it's almost always impossible to get that off. It's usually rusted or corroded. I sprayed it some WD-40 just in case I was gonna go that route, but I decided to do it the way I typically do it. So pretty much, there's these 2 rubber lines, and you go to right here. It's just held on with these clamps. You just pinch these, slide them back. What I like to do is I like to do this one on here, and the other one I'll leave on the rubber line so I don't get mixed up which one goes where. But they are also different lengths too, so it's pretty hard to mix those up. And these 2 lines are held in with the 12mm on the frame right there. This one's kind of a ass to get, but you sit there and take it off, and that allows you to kind of pull the lines out with the tank. Since I am relocating everything from this tank to the new tank, it makes sense to do it this way anyways. And then you also have to, if you're gonna do it this way, you also have to disconnect the line right here from the fuel filter and this bolt off the frame so you get the main fuel line off. And what they do is they'll kind of just jimmy fish it out of there and pull the tank. I'm gonna go ahead and take this bolt off and remove this and finish taking this one off. And then once you do that, I'll finish taking off the front 14mm, and I'm pretty much just gonna have my legs right here, drop it on my lap, and kind of just lay it on the ground. Make sure everything comes out right here. You don't want any wires get all mixed up. And once it's on your lap, there's a couple plugs you have to unplug up here. I can actually access it now. That one came out pretty easy, but I did drop this tank actually about 1.5 years ago. So it's already got a new fuel filter, or sorry, fuel pump. I have to use both hands to get this one. But it's already got a new fuel pump in it. It didn't start leaking until a few months ago. There's all the fresh fuel right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this tank out the rest of the way. And yeah. Okay, so I got this fuel tank out. These are usually pretty nasty and gross. That's the reason why I like to wear a long sleeve shirt and long sleeve pants. Sucks, I literally just bought these last night, but they're the only clean ones I had. So this is the old fuel tank. So this is one reason why I always just get plain stuff. These trucks is one, they're plastic, they're not actually gonna do anything if you scrape over rock, and two, they get filled up with mud and shit, and then this will happen to your tank. It might be hard to see in a video, but it's literally all rusted out. Oh yeah, there you go. I can poke my finger through some of it almost, but I didn't want to keep messing with it because I actually wanted to reuse some of this fuel. So one thing I like to do, since I'm transferring all this stuff over, is put some WD-40 on all the bolts, just to help, you know, kick up some of that grime. Is this can almost empty? You know, I heard that they're banning WD-40 in Canada or something, which sucks because WD-40 is the best. These bolts look like they're not going to come out with a Phillips. I might have to use looks like an 8 or 7 millimeter for those. Another thing that occurred to me when I was pulling this out is, I'll hop under here and show you guys. Most trucks, or even T100s in general, actually have a housing covering the fuel filter. I replaced the fuel filter like a year ago. The reason why it doesn't have it, because you can see the old mounting brackets for it, because they always, what I found is they always, like, they're super rusty and stuff. When you take them off, like this truck, for instance, when I got it, I think it had an original filter, and it was just so crusty and destroyed. I just ended up never putting it back on, and it honestly hasn't been an issue. But here's what it looks like with the tank out. This one, you don't need to bend over the driveline. You can just bend it this way. It's okay to bend these a little bit. This one, I throw it over to the driveline. You can kind of see in there here what it looks like. Here's your plugs. Make sure when you pull your plugs out, you don't pull from the wire. You always grab the plug and press the pin. There's this one right here. This one's always a bitch. You really have to fucking fight that one. But yeah, it's not too shabby. And the truck's in not terrible shape, so next thing I'm gonna do is prep the new fuel tank. I'm obviously throwing that skid plate away, so I'm not running that. But I'm gonna put some RTV on all these and apply it with my finger. I'm gonna grab it. I honestly should have parked my T100 closer because I keep all my tools in it. But I have a tube of RTV just sitting here, warming up in the sun. I just use some normal black, RTV silicone. It shouldn't matter too much, as long as, keeps it from leaking fuel. So the first thing I'm gonna do is, before I apply this, I'm gonna go ahead and pull everything off that tank first, and then I'll apply all the RTV and then put it on. That way I don't have RTV over here just drying, and then I'm stuck with, trying to fight that shit. I'm not gonna run any of these just because it's gross and rusty, and I'm obviously not going to run anything that was in this tank, because one, this tank was gross, and two, I know everything on that tank works, the fuel sending unit, everything, so it makes no sense to run the stuff that was on the old tank. One thing can be a pain is all these screws. What I like to do is take a good screwdriver and put them in there as far as you can, and you kind of have to sit over it with all your weight and kind of push down with 2 hands and get them to spin. I was able to get that with 1 hand. And otherwise they'll kind of strip. They're really easy to strip, like that one started doing. What you'll have to do is, any of them you can't get by Phillips, if you can, before you strip it, just kind of try to loosen them a little bit with a pair of vice grips or something, because sometimes they come out and sometimes they don't. Apparently now that I'm doing this all with my left hand, they're starting to come out. But I got this top one off, and I just transferred this over from the other tank. This little thing, it can only go in one way. I'm not 100% sure what that's for. It's either for the return fuel or it's for the evaporative system. If I had to guess, I think this one's for the evaporative system. Doesn't make sense for a return fuel to come through here, so I'm pretty sure this is the evaporative system. I already RTV'd all these. In a perfect world, maybe a better mechanic go, oh, don't RTV those, or just replace the gaskets, or maybe, pull this gasket and wire brushes, whatever. I'm not going to do that. I've done a lot of these, and this is just the way I found that works best. Because I hate when you do all this work to replace a tank and it leaks, and now I put RTV on them. This one literally just sets on there just like that. Pretty straightforward. You just screw it down just like that. Perfect. I actually have some new screws now I use. Not brand new, but they came from this tank and they're not rusty. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this screwed on, then I'm gonna transfer that and transfer over the other one. This one right here, which is I think it's for the fuel standing, for the fuel level gauge. And this is the fuel pump assembly. Yeah, there's only 2 wires. So this plug right here is for powering the fuel pump. This one's for the fuel gauge. So I got the screws on. It's something I like to call rigging and jigging, where you don't just tighten one bolt down all the way. You kind of snug them all, kind of cross pattern. It's like lug nuts on a wheel. Because if you tighten one down all the way, it can make it uneven when you try to tighten the other ones. Just make sure you kind of snug them all evenly, if that makes sense, and give them the final tighten. I'm going to go ahead and swap over the other one now. So here's the brand new fuel pump. Let's see what it looks like after a year. Well, not in terrible shape. You can see my my ghetto zip ties. I always found that they just never wanted to mount correctly when you replace them, so I say you throw a couple zip ties on there. But looks pretty ready to strap straight in, so I'm just gonna tilt it, lower it in there. This fucking cat needs to shut up. Alright. Line up your holes. And there we go. It's in there nice and snug. I'm looking in there, it's fitting perfectly in the hole. I double checked the tanks. This one looks a little bigger in some spots, but they look overall the same, so I think it should be good. I'm gonna go ahead and put all these bolts in. I'm gonna cross here, just see if it's a lug nut or something. So I had to use some vice grips of these 3. I got these from Harbor Freight. Ripped these off pretty easy, and then got this nice on there tight. Originally just factory brackets on the tank to hold all the lines in place. I've never really worried about my personal rigs. It's different if it's like a customer or whatever, but as far as my rigs go, and I don't give this truck to my buddies, but I still treat it as if it's my truck, and in that regard I don't give a fuck about these. So lines is going to be loose like they always have been. But if you're putting this back there in your T100, it's pretty easy. There's a bracket here. This gets held in right there. But just because I can never get these lines undone, I don't want to break it. I'm just going to leave it like that so I can just fish it through the frame and hook it back to the fuel filter. Make it easier on myself. But this is on there. RTV and a gasket. Both of these are tight. So now I just got to swap over this. And then I almost forgot about that, the filler neck. So old tank stripped. New tank's ready to go in. Everything's on there tight. Ended up having to use a vice grip to get all the old screws off of the filler neck, but it worked pretty easy. And she's all ready to go. Cleaned up everything with WD-40. I had to get a new microwave last night, so got these foam things. I'm just gonna solder underneath it. First thing you want to do is pivot this up in the hole, because if you forget to do this, you'll have to drop the tank to do it. So don't forget that. Just make sure you line this up. Get it to where it's just, you don't need to stick it through it, but just where it's just in the general area over the top of the frame, just right here. Otherwise you'll be stuck with it below the frame and you won't be able to get over there ever. So I'm gonna go ahead and slide underneath there, and first thing I'm gonna do is connect the once I get in my lap, I'll connect the wiring first, and then I'll connect the rear strap, and then I'll fish these over the frame, and I'll connect these all back to the fuel lines in the frame, and we'll go from there. Okay, I always want to go wash my hands after I do this, because I don't want to get my brand new phone dirty. Just pay like $500 for it, but I just want to show you guys the process. So I got the neck lined up. I'm gonna get underneath here. Next all lined up, looking good. And I've got this back bolt about halfway on, this one about halfway on. And I like to get everything connected first before I tighten them all the way down. And basically what I did was, as you can see here, the muffler broke off, so I have a lot of room right here. But typically, you wouldn't have this room, I guess, if you have your stock exhaust muffler. But fortunately, I do. So, I just leaned up, make sure everything's plugged in right there, your fuel pump right here, and your fuel sending unit. Everything's all tight and connected and not going anywhere. Make sure everything looks good. The whatchamacallit, the Rust-Oleum freaking truck bed coating actually turned out pretty good on this. So, I'm pretty satisfied with that. And then, I fished the lines over right through here. And you can pretty easily tell which one goes where. This one, goes on right there. And this one goes on right here. I figured you'd have to just not be paying attention to get those mixed up. Come on. There we go. I need some pliers for that. People talk shit about Harbor Freight, but I went to Harbor Freight like 2 months ago, spent $1,000 and just got all new tools. All of mine are just, old and beat up, and like these, for example, I love these. These are awesome. And obviously there's some things you have to go to, snap on something for, like a good scanner or code reader. Like my Power Strokes, you need a special reader to read them. You can't just use like a cheap OBD2 reader. Come on. Okay, I'm gonna switch to my dominant hand for this one. There we go. That'll work. And this. Voila. Try to get back into matching grooves, and there we go. That's on there. That's nice. Now all I gotta do is tighten down the fuel line. This can be annoying, but pretty much you just want to take an open end, hold it down right here, and then you take a 14, tighten it back down. If you haven't replaced your fuel filter, now's a great time to, obviously. And I know a lot of people, some people will say, oh, it's easier to pull the bed to replace the fuel pump, or they'll cut a hole in the bed. And there's multiple reasons why that's a terrible idea, especially with T100. Because one, these beds are hard to find. You don't want to cut holes in them. Two, you'd have to cut the very front of the bed, and even then, you'd barely be able to get that fuel pump out. It would just be a fight in itself, and it does not even make sense. And looking at that, now that I'm looking at it, there's no way you could actually cut the bed, or even removing the bed. Look, this is a cab, this is the bed. So I don't know why people say, oh, just remove the bed and remove cab bolts. Like, just drop the tank. It's 2 14s and a couple of hoses. But yeah, no, there's no way you're gonna replace a fuel pump from removing the bed. And also on top of that, these bolts that hold the bed down, 6 of them. Well, there's more, including taillights and whatnot. They can be a bitch. So it's definitely the best method for replacing your fuel pump. And actually, if you're just replacing your fuel pump, you don't even need to remove the whole tank. What I've done in the past is I just undo these straps that sit right here. I let it drop to the ground on my legs. And that's what I did with this truck a year ago. I literally just sat right here, had all my tools right here, the fuel pump and everything. Swapped it all in, it's in my hands, and put it right back up. Pretty easy. When I did that, the fuel tank wasn't leaking a year ago. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this down right here. Once I get that tight, I'll tighten these last 2 14s. Then I'm gonna fill it with fuel. My only concern is that I didn't get this fuel tank completely clean to my satisfaction. Like, it's pretty good. It's not like a bunch of loose stuff, but it still doesn't look as good on the inside as I'd like. So I'm just gonna tell my homie that he's just gonna have to run some Seafoam and Lucas for a bit, and with fresh gas and some additive, I think it'll be fine. Okay, everything's in and tight on the fuel tank. One thing I did do is I cut up a timing belt. I stuck it underneath the first strap, and I just put some random rubber underneath the other one. So the tank's nice and tight. It's not going to move at all. And I went ahead and filled it up with fuel. Tightened down these 2 10 millimeters. It's all good to go. I went ahead and put the negative terminal back on. I went ahead and put an in terminal on it too. Checked all fluids and everything. And we're good to fire this thing up. So let's see if she runs. And let's see if it leaks any fuel. Okay. It's live. Any leaks? I don't see any leaks. I think we're good. Yeah, we're good. Okay. I should probably roll this window down so I don't lock myself out. Okay. There you have it. She's running and she's good to go. I'm gonna go ahead and go fill it up completely full, the whole tank. And after that, I'll put some seafoam in it. And I'm just gonna tell them to put a can of seafoam and Lucas every tank, just switch back and forth, just to help clean out a little bit more. And she should be good. No more leaks. Skid plate's gone. The tank's painted and everything. Everything's on there. I'm not seeing any leaks. So we're good to go.